The Third Intermediate Period. The Third Intermediate Period, c. 1069 to 664 BCE, spanned the 21st to 26th dynasties, and was marked by internal divisions within Egypt, as well as conquest and rule by foreigners. The Third Intermediate Period of ancient Egypt began with the death of the last pharaoh of the New Kingdom, Ramesses XI in 1070 BCE, and ended with the start of the post-dynastic period. The Third Intermediate Period was one of decline and political instability. It was marked by a division of the state for much of the period, as well as conquest and rule by foreigners. However, many aspects of life for ordinary Egyptians changed relatively little. The 21st dynasty, 1077 to 943 BCE. The period of the 21st dynasty was characterized by the country's fracturing kingship. Even in Ramesses XI's day, the 20th dynasty of Egypt was losing its grip on power in the city of Thebes, where priests were becoming increasingly powerful. The Amun priests of Thebes owned 2/3 of all the temple lands in Egypt, 90% of ships, and many other resources. Consequently, the Amun priests were as powerful as the pharaoh, if not more so. After the death of Ramesses XI, his successor, Smendes I, ruled from the city of Tanis, but was mainly active only in Lower Egypt. Meanwhile, the high priests of Amun at Thebes effectively ruled Middle and Upper Egypt in all but name. During this time, however, this division was relatively insignificant, due to the fact that both priests and pharaohs came from the same family. The 22nd, 943 to 716 BCE, and 23rd, c. 880 to 720 BCE, dynasties. The country was firmly reunited by the 22nd dynasty, founded by Shoshenkai in approximately 943 BCE. Shoshenkai descended from Meshwish immigrants originally from ancient Libya. This unification brought stability to the country for well over a century, but after the reign of Uzurkan II, the country had shattered in two states. Shoshenk III of the 22nd dynasty controlled Lower Egypt by 818 BCE, while Teklo II and his son Uzurkan, the future Uzurkan III, ruled Middle and Upper Egypt. In Thebes, a civil war engulfed the city between the forces of Pijabast I, a self-proclaimed pharaoh. Eventually Uzurkan B defeated his enemies, and proceeded to found the Upper Egyptian Libyan dynasty of Uzurkan III, Teklo III, and Rudamun. This kingdom quickly fragmented after Rudamun's death with the rise of local city-states. The 24th dynasty, 732 to 720 BCE. The Nubian kingdom to the south took full advantage of the division of the country. Nubia had already extended its influence into the Egyptian city of Thebes around 752 BCE, when the Nubian ruler Kashta coerced Shepnupet into adopting his own daughter Amenirtis as her successor. 20 years later, around 732 BCE, these machinations bore fruit for Nubia when Kashta's successor Pi marched north in his year 20 campaign into Egypt, and defeated the combined might of the native Egyptian rulers. The 25th dynasty, 760 to 656 BCE. Following his military conquests, Pi established the 25th dynasty and appointed the defeated rulers as his provincial governors. Rulers under this dynasty originated in the Nubian kingdom of Kush. Their reunification of Lower Egypt, Upper Egypt, and Kish created the largest Egyptian empire since the New Kingdom. They assimilated into Egyptian culture but also brought some aspects of Kushite culture. During this dynasty, the first widespread building of pyramids since the Middle Kingdom resumed. The Nubians were driven out of Egypt in 670 BCE by the Assyrians, who installed an initial puppet dynasty loyal to the Assyrians. End of the Third Intermediate Period. Upper Egypt remained under the rule of Tantameni for a time, while Lower Egypt was ruled by the 26th dynasty, starting in 664 BCE. Although originally established as clients of the Assyrians, the 26th dynasty managed to take advantage of the time of troubles facing the Assyrian Empire to successfully bring about Egypt's political independence. In 656 BCE, Psamtik I, last of the 26th dynasty kings, occupied Thebes and became pharaoh, the king of Upper and Lower Egypt. He proceeded to reign over a united Egypt for 54 years from his capital at Sais. 4 successive Setkings continued guiding Egypt through a period of peace and prosperity from 610 to 525 BCE. Unfortunately for this dynasty, however, a new power was growing in the Near East, Persia. Pharaoh Psamtik III succeeded his father, Ahmose II, only 6 months before he had to face the Persian Empire at Pelusium. The new king was no match for the Persians, who had already taken Babylon. Psamtik III was defeated and briefly escaped to Memphis. He was ultimately imprisoned, and later executed at Susa, the capital of the Persian king Cambyses. With the Setkings exterminated, Cambyses assumed the formal title of pharaoh. Now let's talk about the decline of ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt went through a series of occupations and suffered a slow decline over a long period of time. First occupied by the Assyrians, then the Persians, and later the Macedonians and Romans, Egyptians would never again reach the glorious heights of self-rule they achieved during previous periods. Ancient Egypt went through a series of occupations and suffered a slow decline over a long period of time. First occupied by the Assyrians, then the Persians, and later the Macedonians and Romans, Egyptians would never again reach the glorious heights of self-rule they achieved during previous periods. Third Intermediate Period, 1069 to 653 BCE. After a renaissance in the 25th dynasty, when religion, arts, and architecture, including pyramids, were restored, struggles against the Assyrians led to eventual conquest of Egypt by Esarhaddon in 671 BCE. Native Egyptian rulers were installed but could not retain control of the area, and former pharaoh Taharka seized control of southern Egypt for a time, until he was defeated again by the Assyrians. Taharka's successor, Tanudamuan, also made a failed attempt to regain Egypt, but was defeated. Late period, 672 to 332 BCE. Having been victorious in Egypt, the Assyrians installed a series of vassals known as the Setkings of the 26th dynasty. In 653 BCE, one of these kings, Psamtik I, was able to achieve a peaceful separation from the Assyrians with the help of Lydian and Greek mercenaries. In 609 BCE, the Egyptians attempted to save the Assyrians, who were losing their war with the Babylonians, Chaldeans, Medians, and Scythians. However, they were unsuccessful. In 525 BCE, the Persians, led by Cambyses II, invaded Egypt, capturing the pharaoh Psamtik III. Egypt was joined with Cyprus and Phoenicia in the 6th satrapy of the Achaemenid Persian Empire, also called the 27th dynasty. This ended in 402 BCE, and the last native royal house of dynastic Egypt, known as the 30th dynasty, was ruled by Nectanebo II. Persian rule was restored briefly in 343 BCE, known as the 31st dynasty, but in 332 BCE, Egypt was handed over peacefully to the Macedonian ruler, Alexander the Great. Macedonian and Ptolemaic period, 332 to 30 BCE. Alexander the Great was welcomed into Egypt as a deliverer, and the new capital city of Alexandria was a showcase of Hellenistic rule, capped by the famous Library of Alexandria. Native Egyptian traditions were honored, but eventually local revolts, plus interest in Egyptian goods by the Romans, caused the Romans to wrest Egypt from the Macedonians. Roman period, 30 BCE 641 CE. Egypt became a Roman province after the defeat of Mark Antony and Queen Cleopatra's 7 in 30 BCE. Some Egyptian traditions, including mummification and worship of local gods, continued, but local administration was handled exclusively by Romans. The spread of Christianity proved to be too powerful, and pagan rites were banned and temples closed. Egyptians continued to speak their language, but the ability to read hieroglyphics disappeared as temple priests diminished. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to check out other tracks as well. Show your love by hitting the subscribe button and do like, comment and share, to spread knowledge. See you next time. Till then, keep learning for fun.